How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and test this thing out. It's Azov John, but we've got a JBE modded version, which is yeah, pretty cool. I'm going to go and test it out on Smithville Dam and Drowned Lands. Going to go and do a mission called Support Local Rangers. I'm going to go and cut across this way to Drummond Island. Somebody said the other day that they normally cut this way and use that like river, lake, rock bridge crossing thing. Instead of going the dam way, I normally go the dam way, but to be honest, I've been bored as hell of going the dam way for a long while, but I've never actually used this as like the quickest route to get to Drummond Island. I normally kind of go over the dam, past the quarry, and then cut kind of to the right over the mountains rather than following all the wiggly mountain road all the way up. So yeah, like I said, I prefer driving over that rock bridge though, so I wanted to try this way out. And I just kind of left this bit in quickly because this KRS crane, I think it's called, is actually pretty decent. Even when it's extended a bit, it can still lift the loaf. I've never really had issues with this crane. So yeah, I popped the loaf in, even had a roll cage, and I packed the loaf. However, I go to here, unfortunately, you can't fit any trailers on if you've got like the sideboard and the crane, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not the end of the world. Personally, I'd rather kind of take a crane with me. If there's no real cost to taking it, then I'd rather have one. Just generally all the things I get up to messing around, it's potentially useful to have one rather than not. But yeah, in this case, if it costed me a trailer, I could have gone and got a trailer and then winched it with this. But when I've got to go and pick the wood up, it wouldn't pack into the trailer. I suppose I could load it manually, but then I'm not sure if the mission would accept it either. And if it was something a bit closer to home, I'd probably risk it. But as I'm on like the arse end of Drummond Island, which is basically 2 map lengths away from the nearest garage, then yeah, I didn't want to get there and then it says no. And then I've got to recover and go and do it all again. I just left that in quickly as well. This is kind of why I left those 2 crane bits in. This isn't like the modded version of the crane, that's just the stock versions that are in game. But as you could see, when the big crane was extended, it wouldn't even lift the loaf off the floor hardly. I had to kind of hoover it in until it was basically smashing into my cab windscreen. And then it only lifted it for a second. I'm so used to doing it by now that I kind of lined it up, and as you lift it up, it sort of auto extends the crane, lunged the loaf forward, and yeah, landed in the sideboard. And we're good to go. But yeah, that just sort of shows you that it's bad enough with the little cranes, but the big cranes not even be able to lift a loaf is... I mean, what's it trying to say? My loaf is a fat little horse or something, but take offence to such a statement. The lean, mean loafing machine. Yeah, taking this trailer, to be honest, the other trailer, they've both got the dolly axles, but this has got the double wheel dolly axle, which actually works a lot better. It's like those trailers you can get with the mods as well. That there is one on there that's like a dolly, but again, it's got the double axle setup, and yeah, they don't tuck under the trailer as easily, and they don't seem to try and flip the trailer sideways as much. But this has also got posts sticking up either side, so even if you do tip this, yeah, it kind of acts like a pretty good sideboard, really. Like, it saves you cargo a lot more than just having like a flatbed thing would. And yeah, overall first impressions of this Azov John, a hell of a lot better. I mean, for a start, I have always liked the way John drives and all the rest of it, but the one thing that just put me off long term taking it out is the fact that it was so painfully slow. You've only got this special in the advanced special. By the way, I was mostly doing normal driving, but when I realised there's a big line of trees here, I couldn't resist. And then I messed it up, I went for the wrong tree. Yeah, it was just long term, it was too slow, and it was like, even though it was good along certain bits of off-road and all the rest of it, overall it is one of the stronger trucks in the game, but it was just that amount of slowness, kind of like, it cost you all of that time saving by just being slow as heck anyway. So it's like, it didn't matter how good it was at off-roading, the mission would take twice as long because it was just incredibly slow. And yeah, as far as like this version goes, the JBE version, I mean, obviously it's a mod, but in some ways it's kind of not much of a mod, and I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean it in a good way, as really it's just kind of improved the Azov John and added the things that I believe by now the developers themselves should have just made available for a lot more trucks. Like, the engine's the same, so it's not a modded engine anyway. It's got the same power as a normal Azov John. It's got slightly raised suspension though, which in real life you'd have access to. There's nothing unrealistic about it. These tyres, they're fairly similar to, say, like the custom Taiga muds, so Maybe not stat-wise, but as far as looks-wise, and to be honest, even if they are dialed up with the stats, I actually think they feel more realistic. Like, some of the stock tyres in this game are just horrific. They're like, yeah, like they're made of ice, and they just they spin around on everything. So these, I think, behave a little bit more sensibly anyway. And then, yeah, you got little thing. I mean, this is a different sideboard version, but it's practically the same thing. Just in general, like, I could have had a roof rack on it. That's one thing. I did put the roof rack on, but then because I put the KRS crane on, and the boom armour that kind of sits over the roof, it removed the crane. Removed the roof rack. But yeah, I forgot to attach it back on since I ended up getting rid of the crane. But again, a roof rack is nothing. Like, by now in the game, they should really be offering that kind of stuff on all the trucks, because you could put supplies on anything, especially the big trucks like this. I appreciate to a degree it was kind of the scouts or more the stuff that can carry roof racks, and trucks never really did. They added one or two that now can, like the KRS Bandit has got a little roof rack, although what is it, 150 points, half the size of the loaf. Again, the loaf's a goddamn horse of a vehicle. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason I brought the loaf with me this time when I originally had the crane, because that kind of replaced the roof rack that I couldn't have on this by taking the crane. But yeah, I mean, eventually, after playing the game long enough, I kind of said it ages ago that maybe when we got to, say, level 30, it should let you unlock more stuff, like more freedom with the tyres you could put on various vehicles. Yeah, like I said, things like all vehicles having a roof rack option, pretty much every vehicle having a crane option. The trailers would be a little bit nicer if they'd fit a few more trucks. But yeah, just general little things. I mean, this thing as well has got a snorkel that's coming out the side of it, a bit like the twin stair snorkels. Normally it's got one popping through the roof, but again, because you can add a roof rack, it's just things where they've added more options and you can tailor it more to your own needs of like what you like doing. There, by the way, only did it a little bit. When you floor it, this doesn't happen that often at all, and it isn't anything consequential really, because it just, you sit still for a few seconds. But when you floor it sometimes, it's like the wheels judder rather than drive. And I've noticed it on a few of the JBE mods, but I'm also pretty damn certain I had it happen to me a couple of times with a heavy wrecker, which is obviously, rather than like the JBE dude, it's the Puppy Master. So maybe if they shared coding, or it's just similar coding or whatever for the gearboxes, I don't know. But again, it's not really, it's inconsequential because it doesn't make you flip your cargo or anything like that. It's just you don't drive forward for a few seconds. All I did was let go of the revs, floor it again, and then I set off. So, but yeah, that does happen every now and then. I mean, the main thing with the gearboxes though, even though that's a mod, I believe with this, you've got the JBE version of the transmission, which is what I've got in this. It is pretty nice, to be fair. It's got the low rate, like the 3 low range options, got the high range. It's got 6 auto gears, but they're probably more ratioed out to the equivalent of the high range gearbox. So yeah, you kind of get a nice balance between speed, but not having to jump from gear to gear to gear every 2 seconds. But the other options, I'm pretty sure it gives you, is the high range and the off-road, whereas the normal stock John gives you the special and the advanced special. And like I said, it was just too painfully slow. I mean, in the end, one of my favourite trucks is the Dolphin, and the Dolphin is kind of like, it was just the bigger, better version of John, really. I mean, it's roughly the same setup, tyres-wise, suspension, all the rest of it. It had an inch bigger tyres though, which, I mean, again, an extra inch is an extra inch. That's what she said. And but it took less damage, it had more power, it had the better choice of gearboxes, it had more options of fog lights and brighter lights in general. It just, yeah, had an overall better setup. So to me, there was like never really too much point in taking John out. Again, long term, I certainly did a few missions with John, and again, it was a very solid truck. But yeah, this now is just, it feels better, but it doesn't really feel modded. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean it as more of a compliment. It's like it actually feels, yeah, more kind of like how it should have been given us in the game in the first place, but kind of a best case scenario. And even, like I said, as there's no engine tweaks, but just having a better gearbox that seems to apply the power better, and tyres that feel within the realm of reality, not made of, I don't know, the world's slipperiest lubricant or something. Yeah, like, that's one thing I never really got along with John as well, is because it's pretty similar to the Dolphin and they've both got the same engines, I believe. but the Dolphin revs higher. This one's always been seriously cock-blocked, really, as far as the rev caps go. Probably the speed caps don't help as well. There are probably speed caps kicking in, and it's just there isn't enough speed then to build the revs. But long story short, it just always felt like you were never getting anywhere near the full power, really. Now, even though, as I said, there is no power change, it feels a lot more, I don't know, just sort of, not urgent, as in it's like flying along. I mean, you can see now, I was enjoying myself, like, the speed going up that hill is a nice speed. I'm not flying up there like a rally car or anything, but I'm not going 1 mile an hour. Yeah, I'd say that's about a pretty acceptable, realistic speed if you were driving up a hill like that, with this kind of setup on the go. But for the most part, I mean, I could still get up to, you know, 15, 20 mile an hour or something, which again is at least fast enough to where things are moving along and the scenery is changing, you're having to turn, you're having to pay attention a bit. When you're just going 1 or 2 mile an hour all the time, which there isn't really much other choice with the stock John, it's yeah, it just gets a bit old and repetitive after a while. And again, that's why I sort of went for the Dolphin, because I could always just stick a off-road gearbox in the Dolphin and then make it as slow as John. But I always had that option, which I always went with, just to stick a high range in, and I've got the chance to go faster. So when I got to here, it obviously occurred to me, normally when I travel through gateways, the loaf becomes invisible and drops through the sideboard, and because it didn't let me have the crane, I've got no crane to put the loaf back in the sideboard. So I was kind of fingers crossed now, is it going to work? Or am I going to have to... I had a backup plan just in case, because, again, the loaf's a goddamn professional. Yeah. He comes along with a plan B, just to be safe. However, yeah, happy days. It actually made it through there, didn't glitch the loaf, nothing. It was a packed vehicle at the minute. Obviously, I've not tried it where it's just sitting in the back. However, I don't really care if it made it through as a packed vehicle or not. That's been a pain in the arse with a game for months and months and months, and this is one of the first times I've actually been able to travel through a gateway and not have to reload an invisible truck. So that's the general route I'm going to take. That's the bridge I've got to rebuild. You can see just back up the road a little bit is where I've got to pick the wooden planks up. As far as like from the wooden planks to the bridge is kind of like a 30-second mission. It's just driving from one end of Smithville all the way to the back end of Drummond is more what this mission was about. Yeah, plan B, if the loaf had gone invisible, I would have detached the trailer, reversed the loaf up the tongue, or the flappy bit that attaches to me with the trailer. Yeah, got the loaf onto the trailer, and then winched tongue upwards, rested it on the back of the John, and then kind of winched the loaf up it, over into the sideboard, and we'd be good to go. And if not, there's even plan C. I'll just tip the loaf over, flick its back end up, and drag it into the sideboard that way. See, with a loaf, you've got options. Now with a John, we've got even more options. More workable, worthy options. Not just the option of, would you like to go slow or horrifically slow? And again, I still think, yeah, the tyres behave more realistically. And they're certainly, like, the wheels spinning now and stuff, they're not like... Yeah, they're really not OP tyres, I don't think. They don't just dig in and kind of that's it. They still behave pretty realistically. You get wheel spin all over the place, but it's just not to an extreme degree, really. And again, that's what I'm kind of hoping for. I mean, in the yeah, in the coming weeks and stuff, I'd like to get a few more missions done. I wanted to go and do some missions on my original playthrough tonight, and I went and had a look on it, and I've just got hardly any missions left. Again, that's probably the last thing that I really think this game would seriously benefit from if they just added it. I mean, I don't know, I've not heard anything about it happening, so I don't think it would be happening for Phase 3, but again, is missions that you can just restart and do again as much as you want, because like I said, I wanted to go back to my original playthrough where I've got all the maps uncovered, but I've got so many of the missions done. There's the odd mission here and there left, but they're either pretty boring or they're a bit glitchy, or on Yukon I've got a few of those missions left. They're like the opposite end of the scale. They're like massive missions that are hours and hours and hours long. Some people have spent a few days doing them, so yeah, I'll probably save them for the live stream or something. But yeah, I mean, if you had restartable missions, that'd kind of be the final cherry on top, really. Then, as far as my original playthrough goes, I've got every map pretty much done. Obviously, when Phase 3 comes out, I'll have that to do as well. But yeah, I'll still be able to jump back and forth, because, like I said, on my original playthrough, I've pretty much done every mission. On my second playthrough, I haven't actually got that many maps and missions unlocked and uncovered, so I can't, there's not a list I can scroll through and think, oh yeah, I want to go and do that one or whatever. I thought I'm going to have to kind of just spend 10 hours driving around doing nothing on the various maps just to go and find various missions, and then decide if that's like a suitable mission to go and do at the time. So it'd just be a lot nicer by now if yeah, you could just pick and choose. Even if it ended up doing a bit like, is it in Grand Theft Auto, you can go back to your missions and scroll through them, but it kind of loads up a separate, not a separate save, but once you complete the mission, the screen kind of goes, you know, back to blank or whatever, and loads back up to your normal playthrough. So even if they just did something like that, where it kind of takes you into a separate version of the map or whatever, and just lets you repeat the mission, and then it'd be better than nothing. But yeah, anyway, at least soon there'll be a Phase 3 out, so that'll be a load more new missions to get stuck into. I'm quite looking forward again to the login with that. Sort of going back to the old MudRunner days. And yeah, I mean, this is the kind of mods, though, I'd like to use on those. I will be using some stock trucks on the Wisconsin maps, but for the most part, I sort of feel like I've played this game enough now to where the mystery of the challenge isn't really... Like, they've made some of these maps so trollish and slow and etc, etc, that, yeah, it's no longer like it's sort of, some missions go from, rather than being a challenge, they're more of a chore, and it's like having a slightly improved truck is, yeah, it would just, I don't know, to me it sort of makes the game flow better. As I said, it changes my whole driving style, really. Like, even with this, because it's ticking along at a nice rate, in some of the slower bits I've been dropping it down into high-low, which, well, yeah, I do when I'm when things are going normally. By the time something's held me up for 20 minutes and I've got kind of an impatient urge to rush, by the time you get to any bit, it's like, yep, whatever, stick in a high range, go flat out, I'm going to make some time up. But, yeah, once something actually feels like it's working pretty normally, it kind of, I sort of settle down, and I don't mind going for a little cruise then and behaving a little bit more sensibly. Like, I probably wouldn't get fired after an hour. Anyway, grabbed me wood. That's what she said. I mean, that's where, yeah, if I winch this trailer and I brought a crane, again, I could probably just get it off the dock and load it manually, but it's now taking it down to here. I don't know if it'd accept it or not. I know before I've had missions where I've had a trailer and winching another trailer and it's accepted it. But I'm pretty damn certain as well I've had other missions where I have winched the trailer with stuff like a Tatrin, and then it just won't even offer me the chance to take it, so I didn't want to risk it this far on the other side of Drummond. See, again, rather than just hitting it in high range and going flat out like a maniac, I'm actually preserving the vehicle for once. It's a miracle. I don't know why it has to take each individual bit of cargo off you now. It used to just take the whole lot in a hit, or at least the same type. I do quite like these animations though. Yeah, I was looking now, like a grand kind of Chinese slave labour chicken shit operation is this? But then I was like, oh well, actually, I suppose the wood was only just back over there. But it's kind of like being offered a job that'll take 15 minutes, but it's 4,000 miles away. The actual job itself wasn't too difficult, but the cross-continent drive to get here was. Well, actually, it was quite a lot of fun with this mod. Again, I'd definitely recommend getting it. It was pretty cool. Yeah, that's about it for today, though. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.